Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. Today, we will share the story of a woman who has been the victim of human trafficking. Join us as our main character shares her traumatic experience. Hello. I have gone through a lot in my life. I was born to poor parents. I was the second child in my family. I had a brother. My mother was a housewife and my father was a waiter. We hardly made ends meet. I remember it very well. Unfortunately, there is not much I can tell you about my childhood other than we were suffering financially. There was only one fateful incident during my childhood. When I was 10 years old, my brother died in a car crash. I remember the day my brother died. My mother seemed to have gone mad. She died shortly after that incident due to heart attack. My childhood was spent in pain due to the loss of my brother and my mother. I don't remember much about my childhood, other than for a few excerpts. My father was devastated by my mother's death. He started drinking. I was also feeling lost. Losing a mother leaves a wound that never heals. I was feeling empty inside. I was raised by my grandmother. She took a good care of me, better than my own father. However, she was old-fashioned. She wanted me to get married after finishing school. I made it clear to her that I would go to university and wouldn't get married before graduating. But she kept finding me suitors for marriage. I was able to withstand her pressure until I was 20. After I turned 20 years old, she convinced me to get married, explaining me that she didn't want me to be alone in life and that it would be better for me to have a companion in life. I followed her advice. I truly believed that she was right. I was alone in the world. If my grandmother died, I would have no one else. In retrospect, I realize how wrong I was in rushing into marriage. When I first met Naeem, I was 21. Naeem was 27. His father owned a family business. Naeem had good manners, was educated. On top of that, he was good-looking. I will be honest, I was impressed when I first met him. I had butterflies in my stomach. Naeem and I moved into our new house after marriage. His parents were living in the same building. My mother-in-law was a good person. At least, she seemed to be a good person. She was treating me well. She told me I was not the bride of the family but the daughter. She was happy I joined their family. I believed her. How could I know that my mother-in-law would soon slander me and ruin my whole life? Moving to that house was a turning point for me. One of my husband's relatives would frequently visit our home. He had 2 children, but as far as I know, Roman was not like other men. He was very sincere. With time we became friends and started telling each other our problems. We would meet for a coffee. I never saw Roman more than like a friend. He also didn't feel anything towards me. Once my mother-in-law told my husband about my alleged relationship with Roman. She told him imaginary things and made him believe those lies. We got into a huge argument with my husband. Our marriage, which seemed to be non-existent, was dragged into a dead end after that incident. My husband insulted me. He wouldn't listen to me. He slammed the door and left. Hearing our voices, my mother-in-law rushed into the room, inquiring what had happened. As if it was not her who created this mess. I told her I knew it was her who slandered me. She burst into tears. At this point my husband had returned home. Seeing his mother cry, he slapped me on the face and punched the wall. "Who you think you are?" he asked. There was nothing between me and Roman. I just had sought to fill my loneliness with his friendship. I thought Roman to be my friend. Turns out, he was a pervert and my husband knew it. Roman used to secretly film women on camera. But why did my husband let this pervert visit our house? Then my husband told me he would divorce me. He wouldn't listen to me. I immediately started to think about what to do. My only option was to go back to my father's house. But this would devastate my grandmother. I had no choice. I couldn't prevent my husband from divorcing me. I agreed to divorce him. I wasn't welcomed in my grandmother's place either. My mother-in-law had told her lies about me. My grandmother ignored me. She almost told me to leave the house. I locked myself in the room for days. I couldn't stand being treated badly anymore and decided to leave the house. It was a mistake. I wish I didn't run away. As I was destitute, walking in the street after running from my grandmother's house, I was approached by a stranger who asked me whether I was feeling okay. I told him about my problems. He pretended to be saddened by my life and offered me help. He invited me to his house to eat something and to have a rest. He said his wife would take care of me. We would arrange a job for me until I found a place. I agreed. I was helpless. When I went into his house, there was no woman. I asked him where his wife was. He said she would return soon. I agreed to enter his house. He locked the door and raped me and beat me. I didn't have strength to resist. After that day, he started selling me to other men. He would bring different men to the house every day and they would take advantage of me. This went on for about 5 years. I was able to run away from that house. After a while, I wanted to go back to my grandmother's house. But someone else was living in her house as my grandmother had passed away 2 years ago. That's when I understood that I had grown up. I had taken all possible blows in life. I was left all alone. I went to a women's shelter where I was given a job. It took me a long time to overcome the traumatic experiences of the past 5 years. I would wake up with nightmares. Today I live alone and have a job. I work in a restaurant. I wash dishes and cook. I've become self-sufficient and I don't need anyone anymore.